Hey, peace and blessings, fam. What's going on? It's your boy, Brother Rob, here with another edition in our Warrior in the Spotlight. So today I got Brother Roz from AtacxGym Capoeira. So he's going to give us a little bit of a background about who he is, and we're going to be discussing how all of us, how you can get involved in Alkebulan, Montu, or the Afrikan Martial Arts. So I want to turn it over to Brother Roz to give a quick intro to himself, and we're going to ask him a few questions. Go ahead, Brother Roz.
Thank you, brothers. I appreciate everyone out here watching us. I'm Imtalam Mwalimu in Swahili. It means expert coach. Translation culturally here in the United States is more like head coach. It's the first person that actually utilized that term for this particular system and this particular expression of Capoeira. That innovation of mine wound up spilling over into what I call cardio capoeira, which is the dominant form of exercise and dance-oriented and not defense-oriented art that the original system, Capoeira, which comes from Congo, brought to Brazil and was subsequently diluted by the Brazilian government, the military government, in the year 1964 to the type of expression that you're used to. So our systems, our family system is Njia Uhuru Capoeira. It means the way of freedom using Capoeira. Okay? And remember, Capoeira is the correct name for the system. The word that a lot of people use, thanks to Eddie Gordo, right?
so real quick, brother, because I don't want to lose anybody here. So you said a lot there, just even in that opening statement. So Capoeira, right? Most people are not familiar with that term, and are you talking about Capoeira? Like we're familiar with Capoeira, and we most people, when they think about African martial arts, they think about Capoeira and 52 blocks. And so first of all, what is Capoeira, and explain that and that connection to what we see popularized as Capoeira?
Outstanding. Okay, good question. I'm glad you asked. I was heading right toward that area. Capoeira, said, make it as simple as I can. Capoeira is a whole human development system and self-defense system that was created by our ancestors in Alkebulan. Alkebulan is one of the correct names for the continent that's miscalled Africa right now. Specifically, it was created in what we call Congo, and really is the Intotila ya Congo, which means the Empire of Congo, not kingdom. That is attempt to denigrate its particular significance and its tremendous history and impact. It had the system Capoeira actually in Kikongo refers to a person who fights like a rooster, specifically. A person explode up, forward, back, turns, batters, and strikes like a rooster. But it's not only a rooster; it includes all of the agile and intelligent animals. So the animal that's miscalled the zebra or zebra, is included. The tumbili, the monkey, in all of its simian forms is included. The chewing, the leopard, and every single one of the large predatory animals are included. In fact, every single animal and the expressions of flora, meaning the bushes, the grass, those type of things, the trees, all of this is included in Capoeira. And 99.9% of it, including its origin, the languages, the spiritual systems, which are inextricable from the system itself, that has been stripped from the expression that is in Brazil, and it's been done so for because the imperial, patriarchal, racist, feudalist powers that dominate colonialism correctly deemed it to be a existential threat to the continued existence of colonial powers in any way, shape, or form. And that is the first part. The second is the word capoeira that we use. That was actually first recorded and written down by a racist Catholic priest by the name of Rafael Bluto, and it's in his dictionary. For all of you who don't believe it, I'll repeat it slow for you. Rafael Bluto, year 1712. Google that. You will literally be able to see a picture of that same dictionary of his, which shows the first written record of the word capoeira. Now, the reason why we even got that word is because Bluto spoke only Portuguese. And like people during that time, 1700s, they had no regard or respect for anyone who wasn't Catholic or Portuguese, especially us. So he had no idea how to properly pronounce Capoeira. But if you look at that word Capoeira and you pronounce it in the 1712 Portuguese accent, you'll get Capoeira. And that's where that word came from.
What in the world? So okay, I got a lot of questions, obviously. Like so I think for a lot of folks, this is probably new information for a lot of us. And so I guess one of my questions is how come we don't know this, right? Like how come this is not widely known? And then two, how did you come to discover this? And like your and then ultimately I do want to get to like your training background as well, right? Yes. And this is kind of how you came across this, but why don't we know? Why is this such new information? Haven't we heard this before?
Here's the sad thing about it. It is actually not new information. It's centuries old. It's been known since around the 1500s, but it's deliberately targeted information. Remember, I referred to the imperial patriarchal racist feudalist system that is the core and the generating power for colonialism, both in its military, its political, its spiritual, its economic system. All of that comes from the same thing. They correctly assessed that Capoeira and all of its components is an existential threat to its existence. In other words, that's big old words, right? What it means is, right, if Capoeira kept kicking it the way it was, Capoeira was going to smoke those cats, and they know it. Yeah. And that's the reason why they hit it. They had another reminder about it when the nations of Alkebulan was getting its freedom. No, let me make this very clear. Absolutely no one who takes your freedom is going to give it back. If they take your freedom, you have to take it back. That means that every country in this hemisphere got its freedom because it kicked the crap out of all the colonizers. Period. And that means anywhere where there was slavery in any way, shape, or form that ended is because we proceeded to put ceaseless foot to gluteus maximus. It wasn't because anybody had any kind of moral change. Because if you had the morality to stop, you would have the morality to not start.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality.
Wow. Okay. So it's information that has been known, right? But obviously, it's been hidden. Yeah. That's interesting. So like,
deliberately targeted.
So like in your case, like what led you on this journey, and how did you discover this? Because this is, to me, it's just, I'm still like trying to, understand and comprehend together, right? Everything that you just said. Yes. And so, and because even in the Alkebulan Montu, even within Afrikan martial arts, we all say Capoeira. Like most of us are saying Capoeira. Correct. You know what I mean? And so, correct. Capoeira, is certainly a new term for me, and I think for most, like I said, for most of my audience. So, so how did you kind of find that out? What was your process?
First, let me give credit to the person who gave me that information, specifically that word Capoeira, is Dr. Keke Bunseke Fukiao. This brother, may he rest with the ancestors in power. This brother was, and to this day remains, the premier global scholar on all things Congo. If you read something that somebody else said, and then you read something that Buseki says that's not it, it ain't it. It's what Buseki said it is. And Buseki, over 30 years ago, was the one who began to popularize that term, Capoeira. Now, I'm pursuing my PhD in African studies and a couple of other branches as well, kinesiology and the naturopathic sciences. In the process of my self-defense training, I ran across, like everybody else, Capoeira, right?
That's right.
And the first thing that struck me was, first when I heard it, I was like, oh, man, I got to see this, what these brothers doing. I know it's going to be nice, right? Bruh, I saw that stuff and I was like, this mess is trash. The first thing I thought was, you will get smoked doing that. And
I gotta be honest. I've had the same kind of thought. Like when I first saw some of the movements, the kicks and the spins,
yes,
and some of that, I'm just like,
it
yeah,
doesn't
no,
make
I
any
know,
sense. It doesn't
yeah,
make any sense.
okay,
That
okay,
and also here's something that really it's hard to say for people who haven't come up in the community, but those of us who in it or around it will lock on to what I'm going to say right now. The moment I looked at that, I knew that it was culturally inauthentic. There is no way in this world and no place on this planet that you will run up on anyone black and not catch these. There is no way. That is not going to happen. You'll catch the kicks too. You catch the
yeah,
elbows, you catch the jukes, you catch
yeah,
all of that. But we will rock you. And I'm not even Queens. We will rock you, Kilimanjaro fists.
that's
We will
right.
put hands on you. And that's exactly what they specifically stated isn't done in cordial capoeira. Turns out that's a lie too. If you actually study where that information comes from, where the actual system is, you start unraveling the undereducation, the miseducation, the propaganda and the indoctrination that they fed to us through the miseducation system, wheresoever they have sway. And that's the reason why there's such unanimity of ignorance about the system, because we've all been trained by the same colonial power that had that specific purpose, a specific propaganda goal in mind to make certain we didn't know. Because if we did, the stuff that we're looking at now would cease to exist, and so would that.
Well, it's interesting because even some of our own scholars, I think about TJ Obi, who wrote
Yes,
right
sir.
Fighting for Honor.
Yes, sir.
I mean, he discusses Ngolo, right?
Mhm.
From Central West Africa being
Yeah.
what we believe to be a predecessor for what we call capoeira, and maybe cousin to or related to Damye and some other similar forms of Alkebulan, Montu, or
And what he's saying
combatives,
is correct. What he's saying
so
is correct.
and that's my question is
But
like,
it's only part
how
of
does
the
that
issue.
relate?
How does that relate? Right? How does it connect? I had
Yeah.
to ask myself that same question. And first, let me make this clear. I have the utmost respect for that brother TJ. I never met the brother, never spoke to the brother, would like to, but if he's too busy for it, hey, that's okay. Right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. For those of us who actually pursue, those of us who are the Watu Ya Waliotan Wanyika, the people who are scattered, we're not diaspora. Diaspora is a different language, which has a different meaning. We are the Watu Ya Waliota Wanyika. That's our term for us. All right.
Yeah, you're gonna have to spell that one out, but we can put that in description or something. Yeah,
yes, sir.
You can send that to me so we can put in description so people can know.
Yes, sir. Once you follow what our scholars say, you discover that he did tell you, but you just kept it kind of under the radar. And it was because of, this is my opinion. I don't know. I've never spoke to the brother. I don't know anybody who I can say I know knows him either. Right. But think about the time and the circumstances he was writing. Think about that.
Okay.
That time period was nowhere near as connected or as, shall we say, tolerant as this time. So it is a mistake for us to look back in the past and then project the collective perspective, the zeitgeist of now to back then. And I think that's what directly impacted him coming out and saying this. I think another major issue, and I'm not saying this is about him, what I'm going to say now, I believe 100% applies to all cardio capoeira players, period. The very fact that they are doing what they are doing locks them into also a colonial controlled narrative. Their existence depends upon the largesse and tolerance of the colonial controlled system. They're making their money, getting the name they have, the ability to even capitalize upon centuries of propaganda spreading the system. Right. All of this is at the behest and under the control of a colonized system. That's why they say. That's why they ask questions. Well, what group are you with? What mystery are you with? Are you this, that, and the third? Okay. Now take a look see at that group. Take a look see at that mystery. Then take a look see at the recorded instances of what Capoeira warriors did. See if there's any similarity. There's none. And that's because what they're doing is not the system of our ancestors, because they don't know about Capoeira. Regarding specifically Ngolo,
Right. Yes.
right? Ngolo really comes from the practices of the Imbangala, who themselves are from Capoeira. They're from a kingdom in Capoeira, the Lund area, right? They're from themselves from Congo. Lund is right there in the expansion, in the whole corpus of the Intotila ya Congo. By the time they came around, Capoeira have been here, because Capoeira was here before the formulation of Imbamba, where the system was actually got its most fame from. And its second most, really. The first is really from Tariq Ibn Ziyad, when he came over to Spain and conquered the place and initiated the civilization of Europe. Yes, folks, Capoeira is the reason why Europe is civilized. Point blank. Period.
So it's interesting to me that the name Capoeira would certainly last throughout the centuries, obviously being mistranslated, as Capoeira, but it's fascinating to me, to be honest with you, because I've always wondered where the name Capoeira really came from.
Right.
I haven't dug too deeply into the etymology of the word or anything like that, but like I say, this is very new information for a lot of us, to be honest with you. But I appreciate you certainly bringing this to light. And what's interesting, there's a documentary out there, and you may have seen it on YouTube, called Body Games, and it's really tracing the story or lineage of Capoeira to Central West Africa and to Ngolo specifically, and noting the similarities in some of the movements. So would you say that it's similar to Capoeira? Because
it is partly so. Because remember, everything that we're looking at from any one of those organs have to be AOK'd by the colonizer system to even reach out to the masses, because of the way in which they disseminate this information. There was no TikTok for them at that point in time. Understand this. There's a reason why, in particular, the focus keeps going on in Ngolo, because it keeps it in an area wherein is accepted and understood in mass over here that the colonizers, the Portuguese, colonized that area. In particular, is linked with Brazil, which allows Brazil to control the narrative. It prevents you from delving further. They won't tell you that what they call Angola, which is not his name, that term Angola got its name because the Portuguese mispronounced, misunderstood, and had, of course, all of the attendant racism or what have you of the term Ngola. That term Ngola means leader or ruler, and depending on its inflection, it can also refer to the office of rulership, like a crown. So depending on how you say it, you can mean the combination of president, joint chiefs of staff, and pope, or you could be referring to like the kingship, the crown, right? Depending on how you say it and what context you're in. That's one. Number two, the name of that particular area again is Ndongo. The first thing we must do to liberate our minds is to stop using the colonizer labels. If you use the colonizer labels, you are automatically locked into the colonizer narrative, and that keeps you away from the truth. The moment you use the term Ndongo, that's when you find that Ndongo was initiated by a person named Kilewanje, and that brother Kilewanje was the cousin of the Mwena Congo, of meaning the king, the emperor of Intotila ya Congo, meaning with the empire of Congo. And that's how you see his connection. Saying so-called Angola, I don't use that term. Saying Ndongo without talking about Congo is like saying California without saying United States. They're that connected. And that's the reason why you don't see it anywhere else. Remember, you're looking for labels that nobody speaks. You will not go to Portugal and ask yourself, well, how come they don't have a Zulu term for this? Because they don't speak Zulu.
That's
Well,
right.
if you go
That's right.
to anywhere near that area looking for colonizer stuff, you won't find it because it's old. The system is older than European civilization.
So I feel like you're really giving us a master class, really, in like history of African, or Alkebulan Montu, right? What
Yes, sir.
people miscall Afrikan martial arts, but
Correct.
this literally is like just even this little bit of information just so far, and we really just barely even scratched the surface. Is
Barely.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's mind blowing to a lot of us, and what amazes me, one, is how come you don't have like 100,000 followers on your social media, for one. Like, one, where are your books, right? Where are your
Mhm.
DVDs? Where are your
Yes.
100 million followers on
Followers,
social
right?
media,
Or at
right?
least
What I mean?
views, right?
Yeah, views or something, right? And so like what like
Well, let me
like,
answer that.
are you like holding all this information in? I mean, are you going to
Well,
share?
I'll answer. That's some good questions. Those are good questions because those are good logical questions. But then again, it goes back to the same answer. See, because most of us formulate our questions from what we accept to be the core of our education. But if you did, what if you weren't educated in the sense that we think we are? What if we were instead propagandized? If we were undereducated, meaning you don't know enough? Meaning that most of the people who are watching this interview right now could not name 7 West Central nations in the motherland. Not being able to grasp, I'm going to give you a parallel here we're talking about here. Not being able to grasp and understand the term Capoeira for Alkebulan is like saying you don't understand what Shaolin is for Zhongguo, which we miscall China. All right? It's that big of a difference. Capoeira is like, well, I would say like Shaolin, but it's 12,000 years older than Shaolin, right? So, yeah. Wow. So it's the blueprint of the blueprint. It's the blueprint before it even got blue. How about that? Right?
Yeah.
It's part of the original system, which go even further south, as humanity spread throughout Alkebulan. So that in and of itself explains the similarities. Well, let me see. We have Enroll here. We have what became Dambe there, and we have Giribu here. We have this, that, and there. Yeah, dog. Yeah. All of that came from the OG, and here's where the OGs are, which they try to skip. And same thing, same exact kind of game. Capoeira and Congo traces its roots back to what is now referred to as Nubia. Really? But that's not what it's called. Nubia is again a colonized term. But here's something else that's done. In their attempt to hide, destroy, dismantle, distort, and appropriate all that is ours, they've also dismantled, to the minds of people who even begin to ask this question, what is obvious to everyone who actually studied it, which is that Nubia, Tasseti, Kush, and Kemet were all the same empire. They were all the same empire. California, Vegas, New York, Virginia, all part of the United States. The United States is part of Canada and Mexico, North America. Right. 5 North Americas could fit inside the continent of Alkebulan. Only if you could take 5 of the 7 continents of this planet and fit them inside our continent. Whatever we think we know is infinitely minuscule compared to what is actually there. And that's where we need to start.
So on that, right? Where do we start, right? So for example, with Capoeira, where does somebody go, right, to our audience and say, hey, I want to learn authentic Capoeira, right? I want to learn Alkebulan Montu. Like, one of the challenges we all have, right, growing up, is that most of
Mm-hmm.
us, like yourself, probably started in Asian martial arts of some
I did.
kind,
I
right?
did.
We all start there for most of us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when we come into a sense of consciousness and we want to kind of come back to source, come back to, our cultural roots and ancestry, and reconnect with what has been lost through the Ma'afa. How do we do that, and how do we go back and get that information? I mean, how do we learn Capoeira?
Okay, all of those are connected. All
I
right.
know it's a lot of questions. I know I throw a lot at you.
It is no, I appreciate that. Hopefully we'll have part 2, part 3,
Yes,
part 4. We can just kind of like
for sure.
slice the major questions down and address them. And I will get into depth and address those issues. I'm also writing my own books and I already have videos up on my channel. Y'all go subscribe to my channel. Check me out. AtacxGym Street Warrior Capoeira. Check me out.
Yes,
YouTube.
yeah, we're gonna
All right.
definitely put the
And
links in the description. So
yes,
please
sir.
check the links in the descriptions, guys. Make sure you guys, give the thumbs up to our brother Roz. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. There's no reason we shouldn't do that at the very least.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir. Thank you so much.
No, it's no
Well,
problem, bro.
let me answer that question for you. I started in what was called the Asian martial arts, complete phrase, Asian martial arts. None of that is what they called it, by the way. Right? I started that myself under the belief that this was exclusively quote unquote Asian martial arts. What I didn't accept was what I had already known, which was that the first human beings on this planet are of Alkebulan. Well, what I didn't recognize at that point in time, even though I had already read Origins, the revolutionary work that postulated and the once and for all the fact that humanity came from Congo, and that was because my father had that book. And he made certain that I read it, and I appreciated him. Shouts to Dr. Fletcher. Thank you for looking out that.
Absolutely. Shout out.
Yes, sir. Well, I read that book of our fathers. Come on. I read that and I realized, hey, you know what? Human beings migrated from the motherland to, since we're talking about the Asian arts, Asia. And what I did not connect was that those people were black too. And that the foundation of every single civilization on the planet, not just for the first year, not for 15 years, not for 50 years, but for thousands, were us. And this was advanced civilizations. Now, the reason why that seems different to us and so like revolutionary to us is because of how thoroughly we've been miseducated and indoctrinated. Now, it's so important that we understand this. Undereducation means that you didn't learn enough. So you don't have enough information to even ask the question.
Right.
All right. So then miseducated means that the information you do have, when it's supposed to go left, they got you going purple. Right? Propaganda is they're telling you this is what education is, this is what you should do. And indoctrination is how you think about it. So yes, all of these things are in operation when we're dealing with anything dealing with Alkebulan especially. And that's the reason why we have such difficulties dealing with it, because we don't know. We take as our norm the very tools which are designed to make sure we never achieve our goal. So imagine my shock when I found out that the first emperor of Chongguo was a brother. Imagine my shock when I found out that the first heroes of the Wuxia was a brother. Well, imagine my shock when I realized that, wait a minute, even though I have a cousin named Shuri Pai, right from the state of Naga and Bharata, which we miscall India, all them joints was brothers too. Kalari, Payata, all that. So when we say studying the Asian arts and that and keeps us away from going home, actually it's not true. It does take us home, which is why they miseducate us about the Asian arts. In the process, it unites everyone on the planet, all of us. It doesn't matter what color, creed, national, doesn't matter. Humanity came from one place. Ignoring that saga demeans all of humanity wherever it is. and by extension, it damages and endangers the existence of the planet itself. That's another thing, and another reason why they don't want us to know about Capoeira. Now, what was my direct path to Capoeira? All right.
Yes.
Well,
and how can we follow that? You know,
and how can you
others-
follow it? Well, some
Yeah.
of this you won't be able to follow because you have to jump into a time capsule to do so. Right?
Yeah.
I started training under my uncle, Bobby Thomas, and he is the leader of our family's fighting system. We have everything I first learned collectively came from him, and I studied Kempo under him, Tongsudo under him, you know, a number of different disciplines under him. Of course, came up in the hood, so we was boxing off top, you know, and so we started doing the boxing, what have you. You know, we were even doing our forms of grappling, which was really just like the street fighting version of football, right?
Sure.
In the process, during that point in time, I also got introduced to what my cousin at that time said to me. He's like, when you're in that chain gang, you fight like this, right? And so I was 10. So I was like, this looks very familiar, but at the same time, this is very different.
Right.
So he didn't tell me what it was called. But my only memory of it at that time was this phrase saying, when you're in the chain gang, you fight like this. So I started calling it chain gang fighting. What I didn't know is that was West Coast 52.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Wow.
All right. But it connected to what I was already doing and learning from Uncle Bobby. And Uncle Bobby was already doing all the forward thinking stuff. He had us reading the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. He had us reading all kinds of different books. My father had me reading even more so. So now I'm going like, wait a minute. I'm reading. You know, yes, it's starting to come together.
Yeah.
Now I'm learning to. I'm actually getting educated as opposed to being undereducated and miseducated. I'm going through the process of fighting that. And now I feel more comfortable in asserting things that I know that is culturally correct, but which I've been told by all other factors is not the case. So when I saw Cardio Capoeira in the Kumba Festival in San Diego in the early 80s, I was like, no, you know, right? It's almost there. I can see parts of it, but I can see, that's not right. Right. And I wondered why. Even though it's way more combative than what we're looking at now, what I was going up to people was punching, grabbing, slamming on the people. If you know, all that stuff was happening in the what they call the holdout. All that stuff is wrong. You know, right?
I've heard stories of it. But yeah, what you see nowadays is very much more commercialized.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's watered down, right?
It's the ultimate form of commercialization. Even what we learned then was commercialized compared to the original system. But we're looking at now is the ultimate form of commercialization, and that, brother, that's what launched me on my. That was it. I saw this for the first time. I was like, what? And of course we can make the comparison. When we learn, say, I'm gonna give one that, especially those of us who know what it is, like in the 80s and whatnot.
Right.
You know, in the 90s, they'll definitely rock with this. When you start learning Kempo, the way we do Kempo is radically different, right? and far more effective because we're injecting our reality into it. And our expression became the foundation, the template from which, shall we say, other interpretations sprang from. They'll hide stuff from you. Right. They'll hide the fact that the BKF team in the 1970s smoked and moonwalked the JKD team in a throwdown at 30-0. Them dudes didn't score nothing.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
All right. So they'll tell you, well, you have to go to a place like the BKF and learn these type of things. Otherwise, you won't learn. You'll learn the exact opposite because you're being undereducated, miseducated, propagandized, and indoctrinated.
Yeah, there's so much of that, and that's a lot to unpack there. You know, what I find interesting in what you've shared so far is, and I've done a few interviews and talked to a lot of different brothers within Alkebulan Montu or Afrikan martial arts, and one commonality that I find is the influence of fathers. And I have not seen this in anything else that I have really examined or studied, but no matter who I talk to Baba Balagoon down in Atlanta, and he tells the same story about the influence of his father. I talked to Muriti Ndishi Khalil Masi, same thing. He talks about the influence of his father. Again, you look at the Tamarian Institute, same thing, the influence of the father. Brother Diallo Frazier, may rest in power, the influence of his father. Like, it's just like a consistent theme throughout the African martial arts here in the States. And it's mind-blowing to me, the impact that dads and fathers have on their sons and passing down. And the other aspect that you mentioned was the idea of a family system or family style. And you're not the only one that I've heard say that, and I think that is what we're seeing now. Are kind of family systems within Alkebulan, Montu, or the African martial arts. And I think that's super fascinating to me, because it's unlike anything that you'll see in kind of the mainstream martial art world, right? I think with the exception of like the Gracie family, right?
But the Gracies are also a quarter Alkebulan. So there you go. And raised in Brazil, which has the highest concentration of Alkebulans outside of Alkebulan and Barata.
That's right. That's not
a surprise to me,
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just it's mind blowing to me. There's this concept of the family, and family being rooted in family, as a cultural value, but separately as a means of protection and developing this family system of self-defense. I think
that is one way. But I'm going to tell you, which for me was even more flabbergasting, or was definitely broader and more accepted in its impact. We just don't realize what we're looking at, right?
Right.
Pretty much all the things that we look at that's got power and swing and swag in our culture, hip hop, that which is miscalled parkour.
Right.
Breaking, our style of clothing, our style of speech, our music, all this stuff was also part of the microcosm of our culture, and one of the biggest driving forces in shaping, molding, perpetuating forces, not just on us but on the planet, is Capoeira. Is Capoeira. Capoeira is a reason why that there is that what we think of as the Renaissance. That's the reason why it happened. The fencing that we think of Europe, that's Capoeira. The arts that we look at as Kali, that's Capoeira. Silat, Capoeira. Right?
Yeah.
Now these are all versions of Capoeira. Capoeira itself has precedents. Their systems older than Capoeira in Alkebulan. And it's just that it is upon us. It's our part of our great duty to study and reclaim that which was lost, and is far beyond the scope of one person. I can't do it by myself. You can't do it by yourself.
Right.
Even we had a whole continent of us looking at it, we wouldn't be able to get it like off top. But we, some centuries of that kind of unified work, we'll be able to pull in some work. But with that being said, I'm still going to do everything I can, to uncover that. And once you start looking at the Alkebulan cultural core, the spiritual aspects, I'll just say Ma'at, because that carries the message and is universally accessible. You look at what is miscalled, what do they call it now? Smaitawi yoga.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
Yoga comes from Smaitawi. Smaitawi is older than Barata, right?
Yeah.
Barata is the correct name for the subcontinent that we miscall India, right? And of course, Montu, and the systems that predate even Montu, all of which are from Alkebulan. You put those together, and you start seeing how simple this is. It's a whole human development system is using the aspects of these three together to develop ourselves as human beings. So very much like what we've seen in various Asian tropes, how they'll say, well, if you study the kung fu, you'll get healthy, you will get wise. How the the stereotype of the wise kung fu master. You're gonna say something that's
right.
completely, you stroking the beard.
I grew up watching the Shaolin movies. I'm
know
the
what it
first
is,
one, man. I grew up watching that stuff, so I was
Five
all
deadly
into
venoms.
it, man.
What do you mean? Let's go. Right?
That's right. That's right.
Yes, we came up. Oh, by the way, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
The reason why we have what we call martial arts now, again, is because of Black people here in the United States. Those movies were released in the downtown section, concentrated area of New York, and they were actually like a 2-for-1. You'd have like a porno flick and a kung fu flick in the same house, right?
Yeah.
Well, brothers were reacting to the kung fu flick so tough. And we were spreading it throughout the popular culture, which we dominate with our music style, fashion, and everything else, that the purveyors of that particular product was like, and they kept pumping, and we kept pumping. That is how that we even got a Bruce Lee in the first place. That's right. How.
That's right.
A lot of people don't know that. What we consider the universality of the so-called Asian martial arts is due to the work, the impact of our culture, period. Now, interestingly, we are by far the least represented as teachers and successful business persons in the industry that we were indispensably the foundation of creating and launching in its modern iteration. I wonder why that happened up in this piece. It's the same reason why people don't know what Capoeira is in mass.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because I think a lot of the times you've been growing up watching the Shaolin movies and the Bruce Lee flicks and things. I think for a lot of us, people of Alkebulan or African descent, we related to the theme or the messaging because typically the movies are about some group of people being oppressed or a weaker person having to overcome a stronger person. That message was something we could relate to.
Absolutely.
And that resonated with us as a community. So for sure, that was
was our day-to-day reality, which was not the case for others. And I'm going to say this. It doesn't mean that others didn't face their own challenges. What it means is they didn't face that challenge. All right. And I mean that in this way. It doesn't mean that, say, Asian communities didn't face oppression. It doesn't mean that, say, white Irish communities didn't face oppression. It means they didn't face that. There's a difference.
That's right. Sure.
So they were able to, for example, Asian communities were able to create their own enclave. There's a little Tokyo. There's a little Hong Kong. And the powers of the country that they're in would not make it their business to destroy, disseminate, disperse, to denigrate, to decimate, to scatter, to waliota wanika. No one else faced that. We did.
That's right.
And that's the reason why that particular message resonated with us more so, and in the particular way that it did, and whereas it didn't do so for anyone else. That's why.
Wow. Well, brother, we got a lot more to discuss, and I'm not sure how long we've been going so far, but I do want to start. Sorry, I know we both got to go. It's late over here where we are, right here on the East Coast. I know you're on the West Coast, so a little time difference, but
there you go. They not like us.
But I guess my last question is, really, what's next for you, and how can folks connect with you, support your work, support what you're doing, connect with you, learn from you? Are folks able to reach out to you to learn online or virtually, or anything at all? How can they connect and learn from you, reach out to you, that kind of thing?
Thank you for that question, brother. Let me answer that question. The answer is yes. Not only can you go to my YouTube, my Facebook, but I have a website with all of my posts, especially on my YouTube. I have the link along with it. Go to my website. I have multi-hour instructionals on my website. On my YouTube, I have several videos delving into this particular matter, where I'm talking to the camera like I am talking to you. My blog, please go to my blog. It's called Capoeira That Works. It's on blogger.com. There's an incredible treasure trove of information there that's located in one place that you will not find elsewhere. The key here is in order to find this information and apply it, you have to reach out and study and grasp so many disparate seeming fields of study and then weave them together in their own particular arabesque. All right.
Yeah.
So without knowing of that, without doing that, you won't be able to find this information. Well, I've done a lot of that work and I've put it out to the public where you can access it. And I'm going to do a lot more. I'm going to put out 4 books this year.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
pretty ambitious, but needed. Yes, sir. For sure.
Yes, sir. Well, it's because the good thing about putting out 4 books this year is that it's such untrammeled ground that pretty much any topic I choose, I can create a book out of it because no one really knows about it.
Yeah.
That's actually a reflection of how effective the colonizers have been in the suppression of human knowledge. And it's really important that we drive that point home. This is not a divisive message. If all humanity came from Alkebulan, and Alkebulan is the one place that you know least about in all humanity, then you don't know humanity. It's very simple.
Wow.
So our job is to resurrect humanity. Our job is to protect the planet, all things on the planet. And the first step to doing that is to break the chains upon our minds, our souls, our bodies, to reestablish the first and most important bulwark, the warrior, not the fighter, the warrior. Not necessarily the soldier, the warrior. The distinction is a fighter fights. This is what I do. I fight a lies, right? Doesn't matter where we at. There will be some scrapping happening, right?
That's right. That's
the
right.
The soldier is a well-trained fighter who takes orders. It doesn't matter what the order is. That soldier is a professional order taker. And he's well-trained, or she's well-trained, or they're well-trained in fighting and doing what the hell they told to do.
That's right.
The warrior is even better than those two, but the warrior has a code of honor, a spiritual conduct base, and engages in that practice for the rest of their lives, which separates them from what most people conflate with when we say these statements. Mm-hmm. They'll say, well, you know what? He's MMA, he's a boxer, he's whatever, he's Kali, he's kickboxing, whatever. These are warriors. Yeah. No, those cats are prize fighters. There's no disrespect to them because I love those cats, dude. Anderson Silva, Ali, the Great Gama, Mas Oyama. Well, okay, Great Gama, Mas Oyama. Those cats are actually practitioners of warrior arts. But let's go with the sports. Sugar Ray Robinson.
That's right.
That's right. Bill, the Black Terror Richmond.
Yep,
all of these people are. Clarissa Shields, who does not get her shine. What up, Guo? Right?
She's amazing. She's amazing. She really is. She's amazing.
If she was a dude, she would be killing the planet right now.
She's amazing.
She would have eclipsed Floyd, no question.
Yeah,
but we'll get that in a moment. Well, maybe the next time, right?
That's right. That's right.
Because we're almost at the end right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we're definitely going to put all the links, everything in the description. So for those that are trying to remember everything, all that, please check the description of the video. It's all going to be listed. You guys can connect. Yeah. But keep going, brother.
Okay, I just wanted to say this. I want to apologize again because it seems like I'm just blasting out all this voluminous amount of disparate, not connected information. But really and truly, it is connected. It's connected at the root. It's connected at the seed, at the branch. It's like a mycelial network. If you've never looked underground, you don't know the whole world's connected. That's right. So when I start telling you the whole world's connected and your experience is, dog, I'm standing on this here one rock, just one. I'm just big toe on one piece of sand on the beach. You can't think of the world. You can't even conceive of the beach. And that's what we're looking at.
That's a great analogy. That's a perfect analogy because that's literally where we are right now, and that's where again most of my audience is. That's where most of us are, And so you've certainly opened up an entire new way of study. I wouldn't say new field of study. It's the same field, but a new way of study.
Exactly.
You know, because I think you can't really study until you first understand, until you first unlearn things that you may have assumed or you may have thought you knew, right? And so,
Correct.
and
More accurately,
that's
you cannot educate yourself, unless you learn to educate yourself. We spent most of our lives being miseducated by a system that's hostile to all of us. If we are not the Rothschild type, if you're not the Chase type, it's hostile to us because it's designed to oppress those of us who are not in what would be the top 10% to 1%. Because remember, it's an imperial, patriarchal, racist, feudalist system. So if it doesn't matter what color you are, not that alone won't send it for you. You have to have all of the pieces together. Think of it like this. Let me make it simple. Think of the modern iteration of the aristocracy and nobility, and you get it. Because if we think of, say, European aristocracy and nobility during feudalism, they were only 5% of the population. To them, the rest of 95% sucked, and the rest of 95% looked like them. Well, imagine that. Take that. Stack racism, sexism, and a whole bunch of other isms, all the other isms on top of that. That's the system we're dealing with today. And that by itself, that single explanation explains why people are asking the questions you're asking. The audience you're speaking to, that's the reason why they have the questions they have. That is where I was before I started studying Alkebulan studies, which is why the first thing they try to take from us is Alkebulan studies, Black history, because it's human history.
Well, brother, we're definitely going to be doing a part 2 to this, first of all, okay? Because I know folks are like, you have dropped some bombs, and this is a straight fire, first of all. So
thank you.
It really, no, thank you, really, really seriously. And so we're definitely going to do part 2, 3, whatever we as much as we can get you on. And like I say, it's been phenomenal because we need that education, and you've just been dropping some. Like I said, it's a master class, okay? And so this is like, I don't know. I know you're getting your doctorate, but I feel like you're giving us doctorate level studies right now. You know what I'm saying, brother? Like this is not middle school stuff, okay? So you're giving us this kind of next level. So I feel like I gotta like up my game now. I gotta really like get in the books and stuff. So it's definitely motivating for me too,
Well, I would if I could recommend something, there's like a core brace amount of books, a core. Of course, there would be Destruction of Black Civilization first, written by Dr. Chancellor Williams. The second would be The Black Jacobins in English, written by C.L.R. James. In French would be Les Noirs Jacobins. Okay. The third, well, it's gotta be Fighting for Honor. Right?
That's right.
Gotta do that. Right. Okay.
That's right. I got it back here.
Yes, sir. Show it to him.
Yeah, we've got it. We've got it. Fighting for Honor. This is it right here. I think it's still on Amazon. You can still pick them up. Still pick them up. So, yeah, for sure, bro. No, absolutely. Those are the perfect places to start. I got mine from Shades of Africa. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you can support, if you can support your local, Black-owned businesses, Black-owned bookstores, that's absolutely where you should go if you can pick them up at those locations. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. I also study these issues, and I'm putting these out on my website. So there are books that I will have that will deal specifically with these issues, comprehensively misunderstood issues. For example, talking about capoeira, its number one technique, its most famous technique, is what they call ginga. That is not the name of the technique. Really? Ginga was a person. Oh yeah, Ginga was a human being, and she was the Ngola of Indongo. And she used a skill that was referred to by our people. Remember now, the Intotila ya Congo is larger than North America. Okay. So there are a number of dialects in there. And so she was using a skill Vepa, Yepa, Insanga, and Ingoma ya Udanganyifu in Swahili, which means dance of deception. It was the movement skills that we were applying. All right. And not just standing still, but the whole body, the transitions, the stances, everything. All right. Now, she wasn't out here dancing. And she most definitely wasn't just doing the L pattern back and forth that they teach you in cardio capoeira. Even back in the 70s, brothers was calling that the robot Jenga. That was not it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So we were actually applying our skills of movement combined with our stances and our transitions, our arakatiya ojuzi, our movement skills, and applying it to this circumstance. Now, because we're so fluid and skilled and functional with it, to the eyes of others looking in, they said it was a war dance. Now, what's happened is another example of our miseducation. Nowadays, when we think of dance, we thinking somebody out here, they out here twerking or something, right? No, we are old enough, and right now, all of you here, check it out on YouTube. We all remember a guy named Ali.
That's right.
Who was frequently called, he's out here dancing. He was out. One of the most common terms for dancing at that time was shuffle.
Yep.
And that's where the phrase Ali Shuffle came from.
Yeah.
Well, Ndongo was doing the Jenga. She was doing her shuffle. Her movement is to her what the Ali Shuffle is to boxing.
Yeah.
And you would be a complete idiot to talk about, you know what, the first thing I need to do before I can even learn boxing is I need to shuffle. And every time before I do a technique, I want to shuffle. I'm gonna jab. I'm gonna shuffle. Then I'm gonna jab, and I'm gonna shuffle, and I'm gonna shuffle, I'm gonna shuffle. No. That is the cultural, disconnect, destruction, and misunderstanding that is been permeated throughout the cardio capoeira community. And it's the proof that these people, however well-meaning they are, and there's a lot of great people there. Some boys is out over there. What's happening? Right?
Yeah, that's right.
But do you wrong for that, and you know it, and then I can prove it, and that's it.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, we're gonna unpack that a lot more because there's a lot of misconceptions, obviously, out there, right, about capoeira and what the information you've shared, I have never heard anywhere else. And so that's why I say, we're going to definitely unpack it, but it makes sense, right? It really does make sense. And so that's why I want to unpack it when we do our part 2, for sure. But I know I got to run. Like I say, it is East Coast time here. I know you got a lot going on too, brother. So thank you again for this interview and just taking the time out to educate us and give us this masterclass, brother. Again, to my audience, thank you all for tuning in. Please check out our brother's links down in the descriptions. Go to his YouTube, subscribe. Please subscribe, right? He's gonna watch the numbers because that's what we do. YouTubers, we watch the numbers to make sure those subscribe numbers are ticking up. So please subscribe, share this video as well. Share it to your friends. Make sure folks are aware of this information and they also support, subscribe, and we get this information out there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I appreciate all of you. I want to say asante sana. Thank you very much for everything that you're doing. All of you who are listening, don't just listen to me. Go and do all of us. Go to Brother Rob. Go to Kamerunian Institute. If all you know is capoeira, go to capoeira. Start somewhere. Just don't end there. And utilize the resources we speak about. Okay? And realize that this is one path that is guaranteed to help you in your life and guaranteed to help you contribute in a positive way to the entire planet. Not just me, not just you, all of us.
Ashe.
The purpose of our organization is to start right here in Harlem, which has the largest concentration of people of African descent that exists anywhere on this earth. There are more Africans here in Harlem than exist in any city on the African continent, because that's what you and I are, Africans.